What's up, guys? I'm Jason, this is the Freeburg Garage, and we are on the FXRT project once again, and we are building the heads now, putting them on the Evolution motor. We are doing the torque sequence to get these installed. It's quite a lengthy process. You gotta make sure you do the exact steps that they request, otherwise you're gonna have seals problems in the future. So let's hop on the bench, talk about what I got behind me. Let's get to it. The rundown of getting these heads installed. I like to go over this because it shows what we need to upgrade or what's been upgraded throughout the years or what's been changed and what we're gonna be doing to these heads in order to get these on the bike. So, start off. The heads, of course, have been cleaned up, blasted, decked, not polished, but all decked out, and valves, everything's been redone on the heads. I had the machine shop actually do that portion of it. Just was a lot easier for them to do the whole deal of that instead of me trying to compress the springs. You can do it yourself, just got the specialty tools for it, and since it's all in-house when they do it, that's why I had them complete those. So we have our front and rear heads going on, and just to show you one more time how clean the bottom is, it looks beautiful. So these are pretty much brand new heads, cleaned up, ready to go. Now, in order to get these on the bike, there's a couple different upgrades that end up happening, I guess, throughout the years of gaskets. And this is to improve what 88, I should say, had. And I believe this was changed in possibly, I think, 94 is where it started to change. And this is my original gasket right there that came off the bike. And I have two sets of gaskets, and I have a Harley-Davidson right there, Evolution top end rebuild kit right here. We have a Comet gasket set we're gonna be using. This is the gaskets that we've been using for the base and all the way up until we get to the valve train. That's where we're gonna start using all the original Harley gaskets and kind of going into more of that portion later. But for now, these are what we're gonna be using. These are nice metal ones that are properly formed and to improve leakage or sealing of the heads onto the jugs. And that is an upgrade from like the carbon mesh that they have from the original ones. Even further back was paper, so they upgraded to them. That's kind of what this is right here, or exactly what this is. But the difference between the original one in 88 and then the kit you can essentially buy at the dealership still today, and this one right here, is that the dowel pin O-rings. So on the jugs, there's these little dowel pins, and in the service manual, even, right here, it shows on the bottom side there that there's an O-ring. I pulled the O-rings off that sit inside the dowel, and then this gasket sits right here and encompasses the O-ring that sits in the dowel. What they did to make the improvement is simply closing that gap, making the hole smaller, and it even says right down here, do not use with O-rings. They were very clear on that. This is from Harley, same material, and then using the Comet, same thing. Do not use O-rings. So they improved that. There must have been leakage, must have problems in the past with the gaskets being able to seal properly or wear out over time. So that was an improvement that they did. So we're gonna use the Comet ones just because it is better over the Harley-Davidson gaskets. They're metal, they're supposed to form better into the head to hopefully seal it up for long terms. And then we're gonna be using as well some S&S new head bolts right here and washers. This is kit 24010893, and I didn't mention the kit number on the Comet ones, and that is a DS172087 right there. So if you're wondering which ones they are, there you are. We're all set there. Essentially, we need to get these heads cleaned up. They actually need to be scrubbed with some soap and get the machining oil off it. And they're pretty much good to go from there. We're gonna get them assembled. Once we're on there, we have to stand by the torque spec of the head from the service manual, and there are multiple steps to making sure that the torque sequence goes down correctly and how you do it, and then torquing down every step of the way. And then even at the very end, it's gonna show us how to properly move that head bolt to the final torque spec in order for it to be fully sealed as far as what the book shows. And if you don't do it, of course, you can warp the head or the jug or pretty much prematurely destroy your top end when you're rebuilding it. We don't want to do that, so that's why we're following by this standard. Let's get to it. Getting these heads installed. Let's talk about the gaskets one more time. We got a 3-layer Comet gasket right there that is all metal. It's gonna be sandwiched between the jug and the head. There's the original one there, just a flat metal mesh gasket with the original dowel O-ring right there. O-ring would go right in the middle there and then fit properly on your dowel ring. The new ones that Harley even gives you makes that hole smaller, so you don't need O-ring, and then the same thing with the Comet ones. But as you can tell, high quality, nice metal to make sure that we have a proper seal. So let's get these on the jugs. Fitted there. And we are fitted on that side. All right, let's grab the heads. All right, per the service manual too, you need to oil up the bottom contact point right here. That's gonna hit the cylinder. And then we got a bunch of assembly lube up on the valves there for anything that's gonna move, all prepped and ready. All right, fits good. And our front head. All right, let's get the bolts in. So we're using S&S head bolts, and that is the new one right there. And this is my old one right here. There's a difference. They're more mimicked off of what 85 and down was, and this is what 88 and the improvement of what Harley did in 88. So in 85, so 84, 85, they had this style with washers, and then in 85, midway through the year, they upgraded again, and then that went all the way until 88, which was like the final design in the book. So there's 3 different head bolts that were swapped out. So with S&S, they simply just made it as if you had an 84 and it'll fit all of them, because all it takes is a washer. That washer slides over like that, and now we're the same size as the other ones. So if you're wondering why we're using washers or what's the difference between them, that's it right there. S&S essentially takes out the equation and makes one head bolt, just gotta add the washer, now it's all the same. All right, so what we gotta do is do the longer bolts on this side, and then the shorter bolts go on the spark plug side. And per the instructions, you gotta make sure that we just finger tight all of the head bolts first, and then we're gonna go in the sequence to get these all tightened down. So I've been saying the gasket maker all wrong. It's Cometic Gaskets, or Cometic MLS by their manual here. And we want to follow by their specs because the base and the head gasket are made by them, and the thickness of how these are tightened down are completely separate from what Harley-Davidson service manual is or the Harley-Davidson gaskets are. If you're going to use Harley-Davidson, make sure you use their specs. It's very clear on that. Or if you're going to use S&S, make sure you use the manual that follows with the gasket maker. Now, as far as your sequence goes, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll show it on the camera. And then it's 4 times around we have to tighten this down. So we have a 9, a 14, a 22, a 35, and a 42 that we have to tighten this down. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start off on this side because it's going to be closely related. It's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, and the same thing on the other side. So go ahead and do the first sequence, which is the 9 foot-pounds. Let's get started. Now we're doing 14. Now we're going to do 22 foot-pounds. 35 foot-pounds. Last round, 45 foot-pounds. Bam! We are finally getting a motor together. We have the jugs, the heads. We still got to do the full valve train on this motor, but overall stoked on how it all came out. Very smooth this time, but a lot of prep went into getting this ready. I mean, going over the manuals, making sure everything looked good, going over the gaskets, making sure that they're correct, the torque specs, making sure that everything aligned. It's pretty stressful because you're thinking you're gonna snap a stud, especially from the high torque that we went into, going from 9 all the way up to 45 foot-pounds. That's the Cometic torque specs. The sequences are the same to Harley, so that 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same as what Harley would do, but Harley goes to the last step, which is 17 foot-pounds on your last round, and then you take a marker and you mark that stud and you twist it 90 degrees, and that's your final torque spec for Harley. But the gaskets are much thinner, so you don't need as much pressure going down, but the Cometic one's a lot thicker, so that's why we went to 45. But overall, pumped, can't wait to get the valve train all put together. Whole nother sequence, whole nother problems we're gonna get into, but that about right for me in this one, guys. I would greatly appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button, tap that like, press that notification, leave a comment below and tell what you think. And for those that are subscribed, thank you, and as always, stay free. I'll catch you guys later. Peace!